First, check to make sure that your frame is designed to have fenders installed and that you have the proper size for the tires you are using. The 35mm width mud butlers will accommodate up to a 28C tire, and the 45mm width mud butlers will take up to a 38C tire in most cases. Today, we will be installing the matte black 45mm mud butlers. Next, carefully open the package and lay out all the parts to organize for assembly. Now, let's grab some tools. For this installation, you will need a 4mm Allen wrench. We prefer a long reach like this Park Tools model, a Phillips head screwdriver, two 10mm open or socket wrenches, a cutting tool, and needle nose pliers. Remove both wheels. It is best to have the bike in a stand and at about chest height for easiest access to the mounts. You are now ready to start the installation. Locate the front fender. It is slightly shorter than the rear fender. Using the leather washers, mount the strut to the front fender. Now place the over fender mount plate over the strut. Place the silver plate on the underside of the fender and screw down using your Phillips head screws and leather washers. Repeat this process for the rear fender. Both struts are identical, so it doesn't matter which goes on front and which goes on the rear. Now it's time to install the front fender. Position the front fender with the pre-installed tab lined up with the fork crown mount hole. Measure and mark if the tab needs to be bent to clear the headset cup or other obstruction. Using the needle nose pliers, bend the tab to clear any obstruction. Now grab the long 10mm head bolt, two of the larger washers, and a 6mm nut, and mount the front fender to the fork crown. Prepare the hardware to mount the strut to the fork near the axle dropout. You'll be using an Allen screw, one of the smaller washers, and the strut clip. Put the washer on the screw, then through the clip. And slide over the end of the strut. Now screw the clip down to hold the strut, but don't tighten it all the way. Repeat this step on the other side. Whether it is best to have the strut above or below the bolt will be based on your fork and how it fits best. Push the fender in to sit no closer than a ½ inch from the tire, but not far enough where it won't be effective. Holding the fender in place, mark the strut where you will cut it. Make sure to check a few times before you cut the strut. You can always cut more off if it's too long. Also, cutting the strut is not mandatory if the extra length is not in the way. We can now reinstall your front wheel. Once the strut is cut to length, reposition the fender over the tire and screw down the bolts until they are tightened firmly. Adjusting length on one side or the other is how you center the fender over the tire. Now you can start the installation of the rear fender. Find the PVC-coated bridge clip, an Allen screw, and smaller washer. Position the PVC bridge clip at the mount on the support between your seat stay and screw down the bridge clip so that it is centered on the frame. Next, using the longer Allen screw, small washer, and pre-drilled cork, install the fender at the bottom bracket bridge. You may not need to use the cork if your frame does not have much tire clearance. Screw down the fender at the bottom bracket bridge. Now, pull the fender up into the PVC-coated bridge clip and fold over the tabs to keep it secured. Make sure the fender is centered in the clip before you bend down the tabs. Using the needle nose pliers, put a final crimp on the clip, making sure that the tabs are snug to the inside of the fender so that they don't rub on the tire. Just as you did with the front, put your rear wheel back in. Using the same bolt, washer, and clip, mount the strut to the frame near the rear axle. Push the fender in to sit no closer than a ½ inch from the tire, but not far enough where it won't be effective. Adjusting length on one side or the other is how you center the fender over the tire. Screw down the bolts until they are tightened firmly. If needed, mark, remove, cut, and reinstall the strut. And there you have it. Your Mud Butlers are now ready to go.